ANC Treasurer-General Mathews Phosa is expected to take legal action against the former Constitutional Court Justice Zak Yacoob. This follows a phone call in which Phosa claims Yacoob insulted him about views he expressed on the ANC's step-aside rule. This was in an article he had written for the ANC. For more on this, we're joined now by Mathews Phosa to talk to us about this phone call that you are said to have received from the former Constitutional Court Justice Zak Yacoob. How did this phone call go exactly, Mr. Phosa? Just take us through what time you received it and what happened for it to descend into what it ultimately became.
Well, the call came in when I was at home at 10 to 7 in the evening. Very unexpected, unknown number to me. I picked it up, and here is a voice of someone who I couldn't hear, who he said he was, and saying that why did we in the committee in which I served, put together by the NEC of the ANC, write such a document on step aside. Jeez. I said to him, wait a bit, who are you? He says, it's me, your old friend. I said, who's my old friend who uses such foul language? So I couldn't even hear who he said he was. And I said, you know what, I don't want to engage in this type of discussions outside the structures of the African National Congress. We were entrusted by the NEC to draft a step-aside document, which to me is now a property of the NEC. I'm not going to discuss it with anyone outside the NEC. Yeah. No, you have to talk to me. Document. I said, listen, let's not use this unentertaining language. I prefer that you drop the call, I also drop the call. Let's be gentlemen between ourselves. No, before we drop the call, just listen to me. A judge saying that to me, I then politely just thought it's no point. I dropped the call. I then went on a search, and before I go on a search, I said to myself, I need to know who this guy is. Then I telephoned Colonel Mhlame of the Hawks. I didn't find him. I sent him a message, and I sent him the number which we had traced to Judge Yacoob's number. I've got a screenshot of that. And I wrote a note in the morning. I thought I shouldn't write to DSTV, the Deputy Secretary of the ANC, while I'm heated up. In the calmness of the morning, I wrote him a note explaining this thing which I'm explaining to you now. And I said, I need to know, but I will know. Then once I knew, I let her know, it's Zak Yacoob, you must apologize. And I don't know what she did, but I think she tried to reach him, she couldn't find him. Fact of the matter is, fast forward to where we are now, it's a public matter. A judge, a former judge of the Constitutional Court, phones a fellow colleague, a lawyer, on instructions given to him and swears at him. It's disgraceful of a judge or serving judge or retired judge to do so. All right. You must remember this document is already in another court case. What would he do if he was asked to preside there?
Dr. Phosa, firstly, let me just apologize to the viewers. I understand exactly you relaying how the phone call went as per your version. Unfortunately, language like that is not acceptable, but I totally understand why you perhaps needed to go there for the public, I guess, to demonstrate to the public exactly what enraged you about this phone call. Now, let's move the process forward. My understanding is that you went to a police station yesterday. What police station is this, and was this to lay charges?
I was at the Stanton police station yesterday at 11 o'clock. I laid the following charges against Justice Zak Yacoob: intimidation, insult, criminal injury, defeating the ends of justice. And let me tell you, I am considering reporting him to the Judicial Service Commission. He does not deserve his pension as a former judge.
The ANC, my reading of the City Press newspaper yesterday in which this story was carried, you are quoted as having expressed concern that this matter should not go public because it would dent the image of the judiciary. This, I understand, was your conversation with the Deputy Secretary-General, Jesse Duarte. Was that indeed your concern?
I said, and I choose my words carefully, very carefully. I said, if this goes public, it will impinge on the dignity of judges in this country. And of course it does. Politicians tend to attack judges. I never do that. I respect our judges. But if a judge stoops so low, like Zak Yacoob, and people hear about it, it does impinge on the integrity of judges.
What do you think his intentions were about this phone call? Because clearly this is something he did not agree with, your opinion on the step-aside issue that you had written for the ANC in December. What do you think the intention was behind this phone call?
Well, the first question is who sent him? I'm very keen to know who sent him. Number two, I don't know his intentions. If he wants to differ from me, he's welcome to differ from me. I'm a Democrat. I entertain different views, but he doesn't have the right to insult me.
Dr. Phosa, the step-aside issue is a contentious one, and perhaps it leads us to go there because your opinion, as we have read in various media reports, the understanding is that you said it would be illegal for the ANC to enforce this rule on any member of the party unless the constitution of the party is amended. Were those indeed your recommendations?
I think you need to be very careful when you go there because you must read the whole document is entirety. It's not my document, the document of a committee of the NEC. The document you're referring to, which has been circulated and abused, is an opinion I wrote for the NEC in December. And it's very analytical and clearly saying that member of the NEC who's been to the Integral Committee must exhaust internal processes before they go out. But I warned that from a legal point of view and from case law, like Ramakatsani, if you deny someone the right to be found innocent until they're found guilty, you run the risk of that being thrown out by the court. That's what I was warning against. And the other three legal opinions by Dalim Pofu and others agreed with me.
So in essence then, I'm sure you'll be aware that the Secretary-General, Ace Magashule, who now has been forced to step aside from the party, he has since taken the matter to court. In your view, does it stand a good chance?
Well, it's a matter which is before the court, and it will be unbecoming for an officer of the court as an attorney to start passing judgment now.
Yeah. Totally understand why you would resist going there, but I'm going to now ask you to take off your legal hat and you wear your political hat. And as a party veteran, how should the ANC go about this matter? Because remember, the party, I don't have to tell you this, by the way, the party is trying to rid itself of this image of corruption. It is faced with serious problems that dent its image in as far as the behavior of some of its leaders, in particular, very senior leaders. How should then the party deal with errant members who simply refuse to step aside for the sake of the party's image?
Well, step aside is a voluntary act informed by your own conscience, if you do have one. And those who are expected to step aside and they don't step aside, we don't know whether they have conscience. And I'm not here to judge anybody. The process is very clear. You go through the Integrity Commission, and if you're not happy, you appeal that decision. And then, of course, you then go to the appeal body, which has just been formed now. And if they find you guilty, you can go to this DC. It's a whole long process. And no one has tested that process. I would wish that one of the comrades would test it to the maximum. My own choices before we go to court, we should test it.
Dr. Phosa, perhaps before we end the conversation, let's go back to Judge Yacoob.
You like him, eh?
You've already stated your intention to go to the JSC to report him because you want for there to be an investigation, but you also have now followed up with laying charges against him. What do you think this does to the image of the judiciary in the country? They have been under attack in the recent past. Some would say unfairly so, because people like Judge Zondo, for example, are doing work for this country. But then here comes someone like Justice Yacoob, who, by the way, it's not the first time this year that he has found himself in hot water, in particular for the use of his language. He verbally attacked a journalist, and he had to step aside from being the interim chair of Cricket South Africa. If you were to use his example, would you paint every other judge, therefore, as possibly being the same? That surely would be unfair. But I guess I'm asking a general question about what does a behavior like this from a judge, and not just any judge who sat at a high court, for example, he sat at the apex court of this country. Behavior like this is totally unbecoming.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I'll never attack the judges of this country. I think they're doing a great job, and we should give them space and respect the separation of power principles and respect our judiciary. All of them. We should never judge our judges using Zak Yacoob as a measure. He's a disgraceful former judge who does not need to be taken seriously. He stooped very low, beneath the lowest ethic of behavior. A judge does not do that. Meddle in political matters of a political party, especially a ruling party. Our judiciary has been very strict. They took the Chief Justice Mogoeng to task for what they thought was improper language. Rightly or wrongly, that's what they thought. And I think they will take Judge Yacoob and eat him for breakfast.
That's Mathews Phosa. He is the former ANC Treasurer-General, but also in this particular conversation talking to us as a legal person, as a lawyer who had written an opinion for the ANC on the step-aside issue. Dr. Phosa, thank you very much for making time to speak to us here. Well, that is the story. The judge now has, should I say the former judge, now has criminal charges laid against him at a police station. That is indeed the news here at Newzroom Afrika.